This documentary shows the extraordinary life of B.Ware, a boy brought into the world as a zombie. His story has been hidden away until now, when our film crew were allowed to observe Ben and find out from his family what it was like to raise the not-so-stillborn. Ben's condition is believed to be unique. Lack of information and understanding on this condition sparks suspicion with locals that he is an incarnation of the devil.
When did you first realise that your child was a zombie?
Well, he was a stillborn and I had to have an emergency operation to get him out, and I nearly died through the operation.
Yeah, when the doctor sort of handed us to us, he sort of wrapped him on the blanket and handed it over to us, and what he did, the first sort of thing was just clamp onto the doctor's fingers with his gums, sort of chew on his finger. We
were really amazed and overjoyed when this happened, because obviously we just thought the doctors had made a mistake when they said he was a stillborn, and we just thought that the behaviour was just normal for a baby because he was our first.
Yeah, it weren't until they sort of handed it to us that we realised something was sort of out of the ordinary. He weren't quite right.
I take it this is when the doctors told you that there was something seriously wrong with your son?
No, not wrong with him, he was just different.
Was it hard bringing up a child being so different? How did you cope? How did you deal with everyday things like feeding and changing him?
Well, on the feeding side, we sort of tried most of the sort of major food groups to sort of satisfy him, but he seemed more interested on the sort of hand that was feeding him rather than the actual food itself. He seemed like meats, but I still think that wasn't enough to satisfy him.
He seemed more interested in humans, and the doctors were really interested, and they kindly provided flesh and limbs that we had to like liquidise, and this sort of satisfied him until he was sort of teething. He used to play in the garden, and any of the animals or creatures that were running around the garden, he'd get really excited and sort of grab him, and he'd disappear into the bushes, and then they'd come out and there would be no sign of any of the animals that he'd sort of picked up earlier.
Ben! Ben!
How did you deal with people asking to see your baby then?
Fine, he was fine. He was like any normal sort of baby up until he reached the age of 1. When he started moving his arms, when I'd take him out in the pram, we used to have to sort of tuck his arms in, because he'd try and grab people that walked past and tried to look in at him. Nigel used to call him our little Hannibal. Oh, Ben. Hi, Ben. Excuse me.
Oh, hang on, Ben. I'll get you something for your tea. This is the sort of thing he likes. There you go.
Ben can't talk. He tries to communicate through a series of low, rumbling moans, but at times it can enable him to communicate quite effectively with his parents.
This is our normal family tea. It's now coming, Ben.
Thank you.
There you go, Ben.
Ben seems to exist for one hauntingly simple reason: to consume human flesh. There's no scientific reason why he would eat all the time. No other ordinary human would do.
Dad, could we ask you some questions? Ben, could we have a quick interview?
Oh, I've been bit! Ah!
Scans have shown that he has basically no activity in his brain whatsoever, but he's still able to function at some incredibly basic level. And this has led his parents to hope that maybe they can condition him to have some kind of life.
Ben's parents have managed to find Ben a basic job in the form of a paper round. We decided to pay Ben's neighbour a visit to see what he has to say on Ben's condition.
Okay.
So when did you come into contact with Ben?
Well, I've lived here all my life, and when Ben was his name, as a young man, he used to come through the fence and play with my dog before the accident, but no more.
Was it hard living with Ben?
Well, it wasn't too bad living with him, but he used to make a lot of noise at night, like moaning and screaming, not like any normal child. But that's the only complaint I've got against him, really.
Okay, son. Time for bed now. Time for bed.
Yeah, nice.
Thanks. All right.
Okay.
Sleep tight.
Night then, see you in the morning.
What's it like when your friends ask you about Ben?
I can't say anything, but well, I got to go and get my dinner now, so I'll go.
The question on most medical practitioners' minds is, if he was born dead, can he physically die? I guess we'll have to wait and find out, or put a bullet in his head.
We now leave Ben's family to endure and hopefully enjoy many more years of looking after a son who is too dead to be alive and too alive to be dead.